Hello, gentlemen, and welcome to this video lesson on the post-revolutionary government of the United States and the impact of the Enlightenment ideas on that government. Now, tomorrow we're going to have a guest speaker, so I think it's important for you guys to understand the basics, foundational ideas of this new government and its written document known as the Constitution prior to the arrival of that guest speaker so that he can speak more with you about some of the Bill of Rights and what kind of rights you have as a citizen of the United States. During the American Revolution, the government of the United States was known as the Articles of Confederation. Now, these Articles of Confederation were a loose association of the different states into somewhat of a national government, but not really. Most everyone still had all their powers. The central government really had no power at all to collect taxes or create an army or whatever. So, really, their only main power, and I'm not kidding with this, is that they could run the post office. That's pretty much it. If they needed money in order to start building an army and a navy, which they actually did, they could ask for it as like as a donation, but the states were not required to do it. So this made the central government of the United States weak, poor, terrible, and it almost led to civil war breaking out after the American Revolution between the different states. But some people are going to come together and decide that that is not the best idea for our government, and they're going to come up with a new governmental structure based on a new document called the Constitution. The primary architect of this new document called the Constitution is a man by the name of James Madison. In 1787, he's going to realize that the Articles of Confederation cannot be adapted anymore. They just need to be thrown out. And in their place, a brand new government created. So in 1787, he's going to bring delegates together in Philadelphia to write this new document. And this new document is going to be known as the Constitution. The Constitution is going to be based on a relatively simple idea that we experience every day, but was revolutionary at the time. This idea is known as a federal system. This federal system is very, very important, so make sure you put a star next to it in your notes. The federal system relies on two major concepts. First of all, it requires that there be a partnership between a central federal government and the individual states' governments throughout the country. So certain powers are reserved for the federal government. If it's not listed in the Constitution, then it has been interpreted that that is a state power. So, for instance, it says in the Constitution that the federal government shall maintain an army and a navy. It does not say anything about driver's licenses in the Constitution. Therefore, the state is the one who handles driver's licenses and many other licenses. For instance, teaching licenses. I had to get my teaching license from the state of Missouri and any state that I wanted to teach in. That is handled by the state. The other major component of the federal system is the three branches of government that were the main idea of Montesquieu, Baron de Montesquieu. It requires a legislature, executive, and judicial branch, and each branch of those of this new federal system has power over each other, checks and balances. Something that we can review in class, but something we've already spoken about when we talked about the Enlightenment. In this Constitution, it's kind of broken up into two major parts. First is the actual Constitution itself, which is started with an introduction. The introduction is known as the preamble. You can see it here, and I do want you to pause the video and read it over. And on your notes, you can see there is a small gap there for you. I want you to try to identify Enlightenment ideas that you find within the preamble. Now, this little paragraph here is quoted more times than any other piece of the Constitution and really helps identify kind of the general ideas and the reason for the government of the United States. So at this time, go ahead and pause the video and take a look and figure out if you can find Enlightenment ideas throughout it. All right, gentlemen, thank you, and let's move on. The second component of the Constitution are the amendments section And part of the initial writing of the Constitution, so passed at the same time as the actual Constitution itself, was a portion known as the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights were a list of 10 amendments, so additions to the Constitution or changes, that had a very simple purpose. They were to outline and then enshrine certain rights of the people to be protected by the people and for the people. So you can see that first note there. The Bill of Rights has listed rights protected by the federal government and to be protected from the federal government. You know some of these rights very well. One of the most famous ones is the right to bear arms. But another one is like the right to freedom of speech, freedom of religion, right to a trial by jury, right be to be part of your government through the philosophy of democracy. Our guest speaker tomorrow is going to speak to you more about the different rights that you have and answer any questions that you have about your rights. Now, kind of wrapping this up now, as most of our lesson will center around the construction of the Bill of Rights, the influences of the Enlightenment, and the Bill of Rights. Kind of the impact of the American Revolution, Enlightenment, and this new government is going to be felt around the world, no more so than in France within the next decade. See, France, as we had talked about, had helped the Americans out a lot in the American Revolution, essentially fighting a second 7 Years' War with the British to try and kind of win back some of their honor from that defeat 2 decades prior. With fighting that war, supplying the Americans, sending navies different places, they racked up a huge debt. The people of France are not going to like necessarily that they're going to help spread the Enlightenment ideas to other parts of the world, but not necessarily feel them in their own country. So after the American Revolution is done, intellectuals throughout France are going to start kind of asking for more rights. The French monarchy, led by King Louis XVI, is probably one of the most anti-Enlightenment monarchs in the entire continent, and therefore will try to destroy those Enlightenment ideas. That will lead to our next revolution, which will start tomorrow, which is the French Revolution. So your homework for tonight, I'm not going to give you a quiz tonight, but instead what I want you to do is complete these notes. And then after that, I want you to take a look at the attached documents to your notes, which is the Bill of Rights and the Preamble of the United States. As part of those notes there, I do want you to identify, under each one, I want you to identify the Enlightenment ideas that you possibly see within each of those amendments, as well as identify any amendments that may have been caused by the British prior to the war. So, for instance, the Third Amendment to the Constitution is talking about the quartering of troops or the housing of troops in your home. We can very easily tie this to the British actions after the Boston Tea Party, called the Intolerable Acts, in which the British required that the Boston residents house soldiers in their homes without their permission. So that's a very easy example of this. What other ones can you find? I want you to try to write down at least one thing per amendment so that our guest speaker can speak more about that tomorrow. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Again, all you need to do tonight is complete these notes and complete this homework as part of your assignment. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a great evening.